I request Professor Basavaraj Kalgudi to present his topic, Bhakti Aspects of Vachanas.
I agree with what Professor Rajaram was talking about, the popular narration of anti-Vedopanishad and then anti-Sanskrit utterances of whatever we call the progressive mind. And Alvar was telling about, the concept of dating was predominantly Western one. Incidentally, I think I read an article on, a Vaishnavite scholar who is settled in America. I don't know his name, but I remember his article. One Western scholar asked him when he talked about this thing, Hiranyakashipu coming out of this pillar. And he was asking when it did happen. Particular date. When did it happen actually? And this traditional scholar was very intelligent. He told it's not the Western dating, it is the imagination of yugas which you will not understand. And I think there is a misconception of this Vachana utterances also. Some modern scholar, one of the modern scholars has told that Vachanas are so fresh, so modern in its language, that they could not have originated in the 12th century. Somebody has created in modern times and put it the time of 12th century. So these are some false narrations actually, which have been created to undermine some of the important cultural happenings of our tradition actually. Traditions, not only one tradition, traditions, many traditions. When I heard four important scholars today, I came to know the various ways of expressing the bhakti as such. Bhakti is not monolithic. It has different dimensions according to what we believe. The classical or traditional scholar who believes in one religion has got a definition of bhakti in one way. And even in bhakti movement actually, in Karnataka there are two important movements. One is the Dasa movement and then the other is Vachana movement. They have the concept of bhakti, a divergent ways of understanding bhakti. Dasa movement believes that this Laukika is like a bubble in the water. Neera melana ulle samsara. But Vachanakaras don't believe that this world is illusionary. One of the Vachana of Akmadevi tells like this. Kadali is a metaphor of a garden of planting. And there is a myth that tells that Akmadevi went and had a moksha in Kadali Vana, Kadali forest. It does mean that she left the Laukika and went to the term which we call as Alaukika, Paramartha, when she entered into moksha in Kadali Vana. But Akka's Vachana, one Vachana definitely tells that Kadali Yambudu Tanu, Kadali Yambudu Mana, Kadali Yambudu Vishaya Bhava Gora Aranya. Kadali is Tanu, Kadali is Mana, Kadali is Bhava Ghora Aranya. think need not translate this. It's a Sanskrit word actually. Utterance of, beautiful norms that Vachanakaras created to define themselves what bhakti is for them. And for that matter, I want to understand myself about different conceptions of my bhakti. There is a search of or for paramartha, which we call mysticism in a modern terminology. So what is paramartha in life? This is a question, a primordial question. Some scholar was telling you need not just search for bhakti in bhakti movements. In classical traditions also there is a way of seeing bhakti. In morning some scholar was talking, I just forgot his name. Whether this paramartha is achieved in this laukika, or is it outside the premises of this laukika? This is a basic question. And we know that the Shramana Parampara, two important Shramana Paramparas of India, Jaina and Bauddha. These two paramparas, traditions, they definitely argue that the paramartha cannot be achieved in this mundane life, which we call as laukika. And in the morning, one scholar was telling you have to go inside, you have to look inside to see the paramartha actually, which we call as a laukika. And see, Tirthankaras, whatever the 24 Tirthankaras that we have in Jaina religion, they attain or seems to have attained the paramartha after completely leaving this mundane laukika. If you go through the stories of Tirthankaras, actually, all the Tirthankaras, including the first Adivashava Tirthankara to Mahavira, the religion tells when you are going to get the paramartha, it definitely tells you have to leave the mundane laukika. There is a saying in one of the inscriptions of 5th century, Surachapam bole viddullategala ol manju ol tori begam pirigum Sri Rupa Leela Vibhamam. See, this laukika, how it is like a viddullategala tera. Viddullata means lighted. So it comes, it looks beautiful, but it vanishes. And there is a rainbow, it's so beautiful, but it vanishes immediately. So this laukika is like the rainbow and the lightning, looks so beautiful but vanishes. So he tells, there is nothing so much eternal in such a beautiful thing, what we call as beautiful. It's ephemeral, he says. The Bauddha tradition and Tirthankara, that's Jaina tradition, always believe that paramartha cannot be attained in this life and such. But Vyasamuni, in his Bharata, he tells one of the important notations that I caught in his utterances is Loka Garbha Graham Katvam Yathavat ಸಂಪ್ರಕಾಶಿತಂ ಇತಿಹಾಸ ಪ್ರದೀಪೇನ ಮೋಹಾವರ್ಣಘಾತಿನ. See, he is telling, he is defining through Bharata, he wants to shed the light of the inside of this loka. Loka garbhagraham kratvam yathavat samprakashitam. He tells that he wants to light, through Bharata, he wants to shed the light of the inside of this world. He has a deep philosophical point here, Vyasa. By shedding the light on the sara or the element of this loka, the curtain of moha can be smashed. The second line, itihasa pradipena mohavarna ghatina. When this mohavarna is smashed, definitely a melancholy arises deep inside a man. This is the moment of attaining the Paramartha. This is the exact moment when mohavarna ghatina is smashed. And Vyasa tells Bharata, according to him, tells this. Mohavarna, it's not a Laukika epic. Through Laukika, Dhvani is how to attain the Paramartha. And Vachana movement actually believes what Vyasa is telling. And of course, what Rajaram said was correct. Sometimes it has an influence of Vedopanishad. And an important thing that we have to discuss here is, see, there is a saying of Shankara that Aham Brahmasmi is an important philosophical thought. Aham Brahmasmi Tattvamasi. Vachana tradition catches this important ideology or conception, but deviates from it a little bit. Sometimes what happens, if you feel that you are a god, then an egoistic temperament arises at some moment. So Vachana tradition doesn't believe that I am God, doesn't believe the concept that I am God. It believes I have God in me. I have God in me. And this having a God in me is not a product actually, it's a process. Vachana tradition tells that it is a process. This process of having God inside him is an important utterance of vachanas. I can call it as, whether you can call it as a bhakti notion or not, I don't know. I can call it as pre-bhakti notions or struggle to attain a bhakti is this kind of, how to remove something out of you, how to become a bayalu, shunya, create a shunya in you, so that something has to be removed. So you are a social being, you have got many things which are already inside you, how to remove those things to become a bayalu. This is an important thing that, according to me, this is the precondition of a bhakta to become a bhakta. So every tradition, not only in Vachana tradition, every tradition actually, Bhakti tradition has got a precondition of removing whatever the laukika in him is to attain a kind of paramatma or shunya, whatever you call as bhakti. In Vachana, we have an important Vachana. I just read that Vachana here for you. It's a Vachana of Basavana. Is the master of the house in or he not? Is the master of the house is in or he not? ಮನೆಯೊಳಗೆ ಮನೆಯೊಡೆಯ ಇದ್ದಾನೋ ಇಲ್ಲವೋ? An ambiguity is created in your house. Body is called house here. In your body, tanu, whether there is a God or not, it starts with an ambiguity. Grass grows on the threshold. The house is filled with dust. Is the master of a house in or is he not? And the last 4 lines are very important because it tells where the Paramartha lies. The body is filled with lies. The mind filled with desire. The master of the house is not in Kudala Sangama. So what are the conditions to have a master in us? See, the body is filled with lies, the mind filled with desire. So there are 2 kinds of, qualities to to have a master in you. One is defying the lies and to have a truth in you. ಸುಳ್ಳಿನ ಬದಲು ಸತ್ಯ ಒಳಗೆ. And ಆಶಯ ಬದಲು ಇದನ್ನು ವಚನಕಾರರು ದೇ ಡಿಫೈನ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಅತಿ ಆಶಯ ಬದಲು. ಅಂದರೆ ಎವ್ರಿ ಮ್ಯಾನ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಅ ಡಿಸೈರ್. ಸತ್ಯಕ್ಕ ಒನ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ವಚನಕಾರ್ತಿ ಆಸ್ಕ್ಸ್, ಅತಿ ಆಶೆ ನಿಮಗೇಕೋ? You have a desire, there should be a desire, but that should not be more in your life. That's what we call aparigraha in Jaina and Bauddha traditions. Vachanakaras also take an important quality of this aparigraha into their utterances as a precursor of attaining Vyaktitva called Bhakta. And in another song actually, the whole body is represented as temple here. A very popular vachana. The wealthy build the temples. What can I do? A poor man. My legs are the pillars and body a temple, head a golden crest. Listen, O Lord Kudala Sangama. So it is the body which has the God inside his telling. And there is of course a kind of notion that there is another temple outside and that is called as Thavara. And how you become a Jangama, how you can become a Jangama means a real Bhakta, by denying the concept of Sthavara, you can become a Jangama, the Vachana. Actually, this concept of, static and moving were particularly brought out by the Vachanas to quell the ideology of temples, which was the center of kind of exploitation and hierarchy those days. the importance was given to the body and prajna is clearly manifested in devotional songs of all the Vachanakaras, where they give importance to the wisdom vis-a-vis to the knowledge as such. Allama, in one of his vachanas, I'll just read that vachana here for you. Says, knowing and knowing knowledge turns barren. Forgetting and forgetting forgetfulness turn barren. The word Guheshwara turned utterly barren. The ಎರಡು ಡಿಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ವಿಷ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾನೆ ಅಲ್ಲಮ್ಮ. The Vachanakaras are making two distinctions here. Knowledge which is gathered and ತಿಳಿವು, ಅರಿವು. Vachana always defines arivu, juxtaposing it to the concept of knowledge here. Tiluvalike, arivu versus knowledge. Jnanada ahankara anta they call, in one of the vachanas they call, jnanada ahankaradinda alidiri neevu. You are dead because of the egoistic nature which you gathered as knowledge. And what is actually arivu? What is tiluvalike? This is the main concern of vachanas as such. And there is a vachana Kalabeda, very simple, very popular vachana, which gives the sara of the quality that you should have inside, and the quality which you have to get rid of, from your prajna or mind as such. Kalabeda, ಕೊಲಬೇಡ, ಹುಸಿಯ ನುಡಿಯಲು ಬೇಡ, ತನ್ನ ಬಣ್ಣಿಸಬೇಡ, ಇದರ ಹಳಿಯಲು ಬೇಡ. ಇದೇ ಅಂತರಂಗ ಶುದ್ಧಿ, ಇದೇ ಬಹಿರಂಗ ಶುದ್ಧಿ. It's an important vachana according to me. For me, if I utter for myself that vachana, ನಾನು ಕಳಬೇಡ, it's not what Basavarna is telling me. It's what I have to tell to myself in my present time. That becomes a bhakti notions which have to be gathered inside me. These, bhakti movements, actually, whatever that they have uttered, whether they are Kirtanakaras, whether it's Ramanuja, whether it's Nammalvas, all these Vachanakaras, what they have uttered is highly individualistic. At the same time, it is highly applicable to whoever wants to have a bhakti notions in him, in whatever time he is living. In that sense, these bhakti utterances become present, becomes relevant. See, whenever I read such vachanas, I apply to myself. ನಾನು ಕಳಬೇಡ, ನಾನು ಕೊಲಬೇಡ, ನಾನು ಹುಸಿಯ ನುಡಿಯಲು ಬೇಡ, ಅನ್ನನಿಗೆ ಅಸಹ್ಯ ಪಡಬೇಡ, ತನ್ನ ಬಣ್ಣಿಸಬೇಡ. This is all the quality of a mundane, human beings to, ನಾನು ಹಾಗೆ, ನಾನು ಅಷ್ಟು ಬರೆದಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ನಾನು ಅಷ್ಟು ದೊಡ್ಡ ವಿದ್ವಾಂಸ, I am such a scholar. See, if you don't mention his name, you just be so angry, ನನ್ನ ಹೆಸರೇ ಹಾಕಿಲ್ಲ. ತನ್ನ ಬಣ್ಣಿಸಬೇಡ, ಇದರ ಹಳಿಯಲು ಬೇಡ. Just read one important book actually. He is talking about judgment camps. Whenever we talk, gossip, there's an important quality of a common man. I'm not talking about women. common man. See, gossips are going in such a way that avun hage, ಇವನ್ ಹಾಗೆ, is like that, is like this. ನನ್ನ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಸೋ ಆನೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮ್ಯಾನ್, ನಾನೊಬ್ಬ ಸಭ್ಯ. ಆದರೆ ಮಾತನಾಡುವಾಗ ವಾಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಬಿಕಮ್ಸ್, ಅವನು ಹಾಗೆ ಹೀಗೆ. ಅವನು ಹಾರುವನೆಂದರೆ ಕೂಡಲ ಸಂಗಮ ದೇವ ನಗುವನೆಯ. ದಿಸ್ ಅನ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಪ್ರೀ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ that Basavanna put himself to become a bhakta. ರಾಜಾರಾಮ ಹೆಗಡೆ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ವಾದಕ್ಕೆ ಪೂರ್ವವಾಗಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಸೊ ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ದ ಪ್ರೀ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ. ಬಸವಣ್ಣ ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣರನ್ನ ಬೈತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಅವನೇ ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣ. ಈಸ್ ಅ ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಿನ್, ಶೈವೈಟ್ ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಿನ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಬಸವಣ್ಣ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಸಿ, ಇಫ್ ಯು ರೀಡ್ his vachanas, how much struggle those languages of vachanas of Basavanna, how much they show how the struggle of that bhakta. Almost 70-75% of Basavanna's vachanas are a struggle of a bhakta to become a bhakta. That's why I told you these are the preconditions. These utterances of vachanas are preconditions or the struggles to become a bhakta. I think this is an important quality that you have to know. ನಾನು ಭಕ್ತ ಆಗಿಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ನಾನು ಭಕ್ತ ಆಗಿದನೋ ಇಲ್ವೋ. ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅನ್ ಇಂಡಿವಿಜುವಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಎ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಹೂ ಟೆಲ್ಸ್ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಎ ಭಕ್ತ. There is a metaphor of Allama. ಆ ಪ್ರಭೆ, that radiance, how it was, ಶತಕೋಟಿ ಸೂರ್ಯನ ಪ್ರಭೆ ಕಂಡ ಹಾಗಿತ್ತು. He saw one brilliant radiance and he explains that radiance. ಕಂಡ, ಒಳಗಣ್ಣಿನಿಂದ ಕಂಡ. ಆ ಪ್ರಭೆ ಹೇಗಿತ್ತು ಅಂದರೆ ಶತಕೋಟಿ ಸೂರ್ಯ. ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ 100 crores of that radiance was like 100 crores of suns. When I read it, if it doesn't become my experience, you will not understand that sentence. This is how one should become a bhakta. This is a process of becoming a bhakta. This is how Vachanakaras actually were struggling to attain the highest point which we call as bhakta by removing whatever the social nuances were there, whether it is bad, whether it is good, whatever the social nuances were there, and become like a mugdha shishu, an innocent child. And there is a saying that the child is a universal being, and we all make it as a social being and limit its energies. And vachanas many times call the other vachanakaras as mukta shishu. When I saw him, I see the quality of mukta shishu, innocent child. There is a vachanakara who doesn't utter anything. He just simply sits. ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ. ವಚನದಲ್ಲಿ ವಚನಕಾರರು many times vachanakaras tell that the utterances of the achievements of the status of the bhakti is outside the boundaries of language. It's an important thing. There is a tradition of bhakti which exuberances the language in dance, in Sangeeta, Kirtanas does that. What I told was varieties of bhakti. This kind of bhakti, there is one book which has been written by, I don't know his name, he talks about the bhakti tradition of Tamil Nadu. I have forgotten his name, a Western scholar. He talks about the modern bhakti traditions of India. Even the bhakta traditions, the bhaktas going to Shabarimalai, you have to call them as bhaktas. Whether they do it for 30 days or 45 days, that's a different question. And those 30 days of time or duration, whatever they get, they take into their individual qualities, a different kind of sacred points, sacred qualities of life into their personalities. Is one of the moments of their life. I don't know whether it becomes permanent or not. It's a different thing. There are many traditions in modern times which cater to the quality of bhakti nuances as such. And I am proud, definitely, Karnataka gave such an important tradition in 12th century to see, don't make your utterance and your, behavior a kandaka between your utterance and your behavior doesn't make you a bhakta. Matu mattu kriye, talk and your action should go side to side. So you're talking one thing and you're acting in a different thing, you cannot become a bhakta. There is an argument which went, in Vachana tradition, was the important argument. There are many arguments, philosophical as well as behavioral arguments and practical life arguments, how to live, having a new kind of philosophy. There's one important argument that went with Vachanakaras was, up to what time you have to have a symbol. Kuruhu Arivu. These are the conceptions, important concepts, which all Vachanakaras have in their Vachanas as a kind of dialogue in 12th century. There is an Ishtalinga, very important nuance of a personal God. Ishtalinga. Ishtalinga, if it becomes a kuruhu, only a symbol, then what happens to your bhakti inside? Definitely it's an important argument. For a real bhakta to become a bhakta, when to get rid of this symbol as such? This is Allama in his Vachana asks. There is a period where a bhakta has to get rid of the symbol and have it inside. 15th century Shunya Sampadhanakaras, there are many who wrote one dramatic narration of a drama of this symbol and then becoming a real Paramatma inside. A Siddharama, it's a Ishtalinga, whether to tie Ishtalinga to Siddharama or not. This is the question. And Allama tells, ಹುಟ್ಟಿನಿಂದಲೇ ಒಬ್ಬ ಪರಮಾರ್ಥವನ್ನು ಹೊಂದಿದವನಿಗೆ ಕುರುಹು ಯಾಕೆ? And some of the bhaktas tells it needs for some time to every bhakta. This was a dialogue. This was a dilemma of 20th century, 21st century Lingayat community people also. This kuruhu should become a part of his personality to get it off all the social inhibitions, social traditions, to become a bhakta as such. 20th century Lingayat community has this dilemma, definitely has this dilemma, how to become a real bhakta, whether to have the Kuruhu and Ishtalinga, or to become he himself having a God inside, ಕ್ರಮೇಣ ಆ ಕುರುವನ್ನು ಆಚೆಗೆ ತಳ್ಳಿ ಆಚೆಗೆ ಸರಿಸಿ ಬದಿಗೆ ಸರಿಸಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ he have a God inside himself. That's why I am proud of this movement which gave us a new thought, a new kind of existence in our life, to become a real bhakta, not only for him, but to transform the world from looking from the mundane things to attain the Paramartha. Thank you very much.
Next, I request to Professor K.S. Chaitra for presidential remarks.
But as the duty that has been assigned to me, that I should do some remark, I will not summarize certainly what they have said, because they have clarified what they are supposed to say. So I am not going to indulge in that business. But I think there is something very interesting about the first presentation Professor Alvar, when he was talking about, is that the way there were traditions pre-existing to Ramanuja, which is the Alvar traditions, and how Alvar tradition played a very important role in the reflections of Ramanuja is a very important thing to be thought of. Because see, there is also both Madhvacharya and the Ramanujacharya, when they refer to Brahma Sutras, commentaries, etc., they bring actually the Itihasa, Purana and the ordinary experience as evidence to demonstrate as Pramana. So that's a kind of a departure that happens there. I think there is something very interesting about it. Second, about this dating business. So one of the very important point that I was making in the morning, if these traditions have built stories and reflections around Paramartha, then one must recognize that you will have very little to do. They will not have content that Vyavahara would demand it to have. So therefore, any amount of attempt that we are trying to look at in this literature about Vyavahara, which is the central concerns of the history, you will not be able to get it. You will get minimal picture of some dating, etc. But I am not sure what purpose that would serve. I think there is another different way that we should look at. See, Indians, we were definitely obsessed with the past. But there is no compulsion for any part of the world to have our past conceptualized as history alone. There are different configurations within which one could reflect about our past. It is our part of our ordinary experiences also, that we reconstruct our past all the time. It's very important, through which we learn. I think when you talk about reconciliation, I don't think we should bother about reconciling them, but we should be bothered more about reconstructing our past, which is very important for us, because if you get into these fights of dates, etc., the central concerns of this tradition, both the scholars spoke about, simply will go out, and we will be wasting our energy on something which is uninteresting. How does it matter where Bhagavad Purana was written? Right? I mean, see, we want Bhagavad Purana. How does it matter? Allama was in Tumkur, Allama was in Gulbarga, or whether he was in 11th century. It may be important for some scholarship, but what did Allama really say? I think is a very important question that we should be more bothered about. That's number important point. Third, about the important claim, I mean, there is no competing claim. This is a very important observation about the Laukika distinction. Now see, I think the way our traditions, including Buddha, Jaina, is, so one way to look at a saying that you wanted to get away from your grihastha, to in pursuit of something, which is something that largely many Shramana traditions actually would recommend. Jaina would do that. Their stories would communicate. But in Buddhist non-Jain tradition, grihastha is also a very important part of the reflection. But nonetheless, when, say for example, in Jaina Shasana, Maghanandi Trividya Deva, Aihika Moha Pashamam Bisutu. Right? When you say you are throwing out Aihika Moha Pasha, it doesn't necessarily mean you are throwing body. So, in pursuit of moksha, body is very central. That's why it's very important to take care of your body Therefore, there is this pathya, achara, ahara, there is a very strong relationship that is being built, is one important point. We need to sort of rethink how do we formulate this point, which is very pertinent that you are making an observation. But what is that we are thinking in Bhagavad Gita, because there is a consistent description. The relationship between deha and dehi, sharira and shariri. Now it is indicating us towards something. And second, now whatever happens, whether it is shunya, whether it is moksha, kaivalya, everything, that requires a body. In Gita there is a question, if you attain moksha, you are still living, what will you do? So you will do you will do the same thing that everybody does. So it goes on. Gita gives some further developments. So therefore, looking at this way of how do we look at body in Adhyatma tradition is a very important question. Second, one small kind of minor kind of thing about whether Allama, Vachana traditions, way of looking at the relationship with the God, is it radically different from the other Vaidika tradition or anything else? It's very difficult because Allama, when he was talking about Jangamatva, Nisangatvam, Nirabharam, Nirdvambam, Nirupadikam, Nirmalam. See, this is how it goes, Nityam Satyam, Jangama Lakshanam. So if someone gets the Jangama, all that you say, you look at Nirvana Shadka, or you look at Upanishad, Apahita Papma, Satyakama, Satyasankalpa, which, it goes on like this. Now you can take all these words and then start comparing. Fundamentally, when they are talking about para in the Paramarthika, I don't see Allama is different from Shakti. In fact, many times I find it very difficult to distinguish between them. So that brings us a very important point in a conversation that we have in Manjushri and Buddha's dialogue in a sabha in Buddha's tales. Now, if you look at in that Mahabodhi Sabha, who are the people who were there? All these bodied people. Dehi, Deha, Dehi. These kind of conversations could be very easily evoked, when we talk about this tradition. In that sense, now there is a very important culmination that we can all come to, that there is this fundamental notion of bhakti, which is about paramartha. And of course, each tradition has devised its own terminology, its own kind of way, etc. The way you are rightly saying, whether it is in the language, beyond language. I think Haridasa tradition also would describe it as anirvachaniya. Now, Vachana tradition would also make it anirvachaniya. Bhagavad Gita would make it anirvachaniya, and Upanishad would also make it anirvachaniya. So in that sense, I don't really see any significant difference across this tradition. Of course, the route, the pathways taken, the kind of practices that they were developed, the kind of terminologies, the kind of definitions, epistemology, metaphysical differences could occur. But fundamentally, they are all talking about one kind of a central phenomena that is very recognizable. That's why probably we can very easily move between tradition. I can at the same time become a Advaiti, and I can also participate in any other Vaishnava tradition. I can also become Sai Baba tradition. I can be part of multiple tradition, and this ease is possible precisely because there is the central coherent, there is a Sara. I think there is a beautiful word when Tulsidas wrote his Ramayana, Sakala Shastra Nigama Agama Saram. So if you hold on to the Ramayana, Sakala Shastra Nigamagama Sara, you get it. And more or less all Bhakti traditions were actually trying to reconcile this kind of a Sara. I think with that, we can take one small kind of question which we need to explore historically. Whether the temples were sites of hierarchy and discrimination is a question which has been there as part of the narration that we have been hearing. But the existing data that is emerging from the medieval history does not seem to be supporting that claim, is something that we need to relook at some of this claim. With that, I will stop my presidential remark. Thank you.